If you have around $2 million to spend in South Orange County, there are 3 cities that probably keep coming up: San Clemente, Dana Point, and Laguna Niguel. But here's the problem. The same $2 million can buy you 3 completely different lifestyles. And if you choose based only on the house you see online, you could end up sacrificing the thing that actually mattered the most to you. Maybe that's being able to walk to the beach and restaurants. Maybe it's having a bigger backyard. And maybe it's getting another bedroom. Or maybe it's avoiding the commute you're gonna hate every Tuesday morning. So today, I'm gonna show you what roughly $1.5 to $2.5 million actually buys you in all 3 cities. I pulled recent sold examples in each area, so we're not talking hypotheticals. We'll look at all types of homes that are actually selling, the neighborhoods, the trade-offs, and at the end, I'll give you a simple way to decide which one probably is the best fit. My name is Leland Pfannenstiel, and I've been helping people buy, sell, and invest in Orange County for over the last 14 years. I put together a free relocation guide that covers the current pricing, neighborhoods, schools, hospitals, all the things that you'd want to know before you get here. Be sure to grab that. Let's start in San Clemente. San Clemente is where I would start if somebody told me, hey, look, I don't just want to live near the beach. I want to actually feel like I moved to a Southern California beach town. Because San Clemente has something that's pretty hard to manufacture, and that's personality. You got Avenida Del Mar, you got the pier, you got the beaches, you got older neighborhoods, Spanish-style architecture, restaurants, and that traditional coastal feel. But then you can drive farther inland to areas like Talega or Forester Ranch and get a completely different residential experience. So even within San Clemente, $2 million can mean very different things, and at around $1.5 million, I would expect some trade-offs. Maybe the house is smaller, maybe you're farther from the water, maybe it needs updating, maybe you sacrifice some yard. You're probably not getting a completely remodeled detached home, a large lot, an ocean view, and a walkable beach location all at the same time. Everybody wants that house, and unfortunately, everybody else wants it too. Once you get closer to $2 million though, things really start to get more interesting. And this is where the recent sales really help tell the story. Around that same price point, you can get a very different property in Talega than you can closer to downtown San Clemente or the beach. So as you look at these homes, don't only look at the square footage, look at where the money is going. In Talega, more of that budget may go towards the house itself, the lot, and the neighborhood. Move closer to the coast, and you're often giving up some of that in exchange for obviously the location and the beach town environment. That's really the San Clemente trade-off. Do you want more house or do you want more location? And here's the San Clemente downside I would not ignore, and that's obviously location. But in the sense of San Clemente is the southern end of Orange County. It's the last city in South Orange County. So if you work remotely, maybe that doesn't matter at all, and that's fantastic. But if you're commuting north towards Irvine several days a week, you really need to think seriously about that. And this is something I tell buyers all the time. Don't choose where you're gonna live based entirely how the place feels at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Think about what your Tuesday morning is gonna look like too. So San Clemente to me is pretty straightforward. If beach town character is very high on your priority list, it's truly difficult to beat. But depending on your budget, you might compromise on the house itself, your exact location, or your commute to get that lifestyle. Now let's go north to Dana Point. Dana Point and San Clemente do get grouped together all the time, but they feel completely different. San Clemente feels more like a traditional surf town. Dana Point is much more centered around the harbor and the immediate coastal environment. You got the Dana Point Harbor, the Lantern District, Monarch Beach, Niguel Shores, and depending on which part of Dana Point you're looking in, housing can be dramatically different. But if you're coming into Dana Point with around a $1.5 million budget, I would manage expectations. If you told me, I want a detached home, completely remodeled, big yard, ocean view, and I want to walk to the harbor, we got a prioritization exercise coming. Now let's look at a few homes that actually sold in this price range around Dana Point. And this is where you start seeing the coastal premium. You're still spending around $2.5 million, but compared with Laguna Niguel, you may be looking at less square footage or a smaller lot. That's not necessarily bad, you're simply choosing to put more of your budget into the location. And that's the part I want you to notice. You're not only deciding which house you like better, you're also deciding how much of your budget you actually want going towards the actual home versus the location and the lifestyle around it. Dana Point's biggest strength is pretty obvious. You're right here, you got the coast, you got the harbor, you got the Lantern District, you got PCH. For the right buyer, that's exactly why they're moving here. But here's the trade-off. Dana Point would not automatically be my first recommendation if your number one goal is maximizing square footage, lot size, or the house for the money. And depending on the community, you also need to pay attention to the HOA cost. That's why I like looking at the complete monthly cost, not just the purchase price. Two homes can both cost around $2 million and still have completely different carrying costs. So Dana Point is the buyer who tells me, hey, I really want to be near the coast. I love the harbor. Location matters a lot to me, and I'm okay sacrificing some house to get it. If that's you, Dana Point should absolutely be on your list. Now let's go inland a little bit, Laguna Niguel. Laguna Niguel is interesting because I think relocation buyers sometimes overlook it at first. There's no Laguna Niguel Pier, obviously, there's no Dana Point Harbor, and there's no Avenida Del Mar. So if you're sitting in Texas or the Bay Area researching these cities online, Laguna Niguel may not jump off the screen immediately. But here's why I think you should look at it. If you told me, I wanna be really close to Dana Point and the coast, but I also want more of my $2 million going towards the actual home, then honestly, Laguna Niguel can make a lot of sense. You're still within an easy reach of Dana Point and the coastline, but the environment is much more residential and suburban. And that's either a positive or negative depending on what you want. At around $1.5 million, this is where I would generally expect the conversation about house size and neighborhood to start to feel different from the coastal cities. And when you get to around $2 million, the difference becomes more obvious. Look at what roughly that same money has been buying in Laguna Niguel. This is where you're starting to see more house, more square footage, potentially more yard than what that same budget gets you closer to the coast. And that's exactly why Laguna Niguel makes sense for some buyers who initially think they only want Dana Point or San Clemente. Now put those recent Laguna Niguel sales next to the Dana Point examples and put both next to San Clemente. Same general budget, three completely different choices. And that's really the point of this video. There isn't necessarily a winner, but there is a best fit for you. I would not look at Laguna Niguel as San Clemente but cheaper because they're completely different. Laguna Niguel is much more suburban and residential. You're generally gonna be driving more. You don't have that same downtown beach environment, but if you want a larger home, a more traditional neighborhood, potentially more yard, and you still wanna be close to the coast, the trade-off can be absolutely worth it. So let's make this really simple. Forget the city names for a second. Think about what you value most. If you keep choosing San Clemente homes, even though another house is bigger, you probably place a pretty high value on the beach town environment and character. If you keep choosing Dana Point, you're probably willing to pay more for that immediate coastal access, the harbor, and the location. Obviously, Dana Point is super nice. And if you keep looking at Laguna Niguel and saying, yeah, but look at that backyard, look at that kitchen, look at that extra bedroom, that's useful information too. You're telling me the house may matter more to you than having the harbor or a downtown beach town right next to you. Once you know which trade-offs matter most to you, narrowing these three cities gets a lot easier. So here's my simple decision framework. If you tell me, I want a beach town, I want character, I love restaurants and the downtown nearby, I'm okay giving up some house to get that environment. Obviously, you gotta start with San Clemente. If you told me, I really wanna be right near the coast, I love Dana Point Harbor, location is way more important to me than getting the biggest possible home for my budget, then of course, you gotta spend some time on Dana Point. And if you told me, you know what, I really wanna be close to all of that, but I really want my $2 million budget going primarily towards the house, the neighborhood, the yard, and the square footage, I'd absolutely put Laguna Niguel on the list. But here's probably the most important point. I wouldn't choose any of these three based strictly on the name of the city, because you can drive 10 minutes and go from a larger master plan home to an older coastal house, to a completely different HOA, lot size, street, school assignment, and commute. The neighborhood can matter almost as much as the city. And if you're coming from the Bay Area, I think this is especially important. I get families trying to find that South Orange County version of the neighborhood they're leaving. I actually wouldn't start there. I start with your priorities. How much house do you prefer? How important is walking to restaurants or the beach? How often are you actually commuting? Would you rather have an ocean view, or would you rather have a bigger backyard? Would you rather have an older home with more character, or something newer that's more traditional? Once I know those answers, separating San Clemente, Dana Point, and Laguna Niguel becomes much easier. And that's ultimately what I want you to take away from this. At roughly $1.5 to $2.5 million, you really have some good options in all three cities. But you are buying very different lifestyles. The question isn't which city is best, it's what trade-offs make the most sense for you. If you're thinking about relocating to South Orange County, I put together a free relocation guide that goes deeper into the cities, the neighborhoods, commutes, housing costs, and some things that people don't always think of before they make that move. It's linked below. And if you're considering a move and you want help figuring out which area actually fits you and your family, reach out to me directly. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.